Hello, I'm Brian Mallard. Got a day off or a weekend? There are a lot of cool things to see right here in your own local area. So consider taking a day trip.
Hi, Ryan and I are down on the main strip of road in Eufaula that has all the lovely historic homes on it. Behind me is the Shorter Mansion, and it is really the jewel in the crown of all these homes. It is open Monday through Friday, 10 to 5 for tours, and we were visiting here today. You can see the giant columns of the house. On the top of each one is a little S from Mr. Shorter. He had them made with his initial in them. Now we're gonna go inside and find out some more.
Hello, I'm Brian Mallard at the Shorter Mansion in Eufaula, Alabama with Rosemary Bennett. So Rosemary, would you like to tell us something about the house?
Well, the house, we're very proud to have it in Eufaula. It was built by Eli Shorter and his wife, Wylena, and it was started in 1884 and they completed it in 1906. He stood back out front and looked, and he called it Eli's Folly because he had invested $100,000 in it. It has 17 Corinthian columns on the outside and 6 on the inside, and at the sunburst at the very top, it's got an S. So Mr. Shorter was a little bit proud of himself, and we are proud that he invested all of his money in this house. We give tours, we have wedding receptions here, we have parties at Christmas times, we sell dinners. That's how we make our money. We're self-supporting, and we are a house museum. And being a house museum, we 7 governors from the state, from Barber County, that's the reason we're called a house museum. And because we are a house museum, we get several advantages. We did get $75,000 in the very beginning in 1965 when the Heritage Association purchased it on the front porch at an auction for $34,000. And we got a grant for $75,000, and one of the first things we did was to buy the chandelier. You got to set your priorities. We purchased a chandelier, and also we came in and remodeled the house totally and completely, a little bit at a time. A lot of the furniture is donated, and we're very proud when someone donates a piece, and people in Eufaula feel like the Shorter Mansion belongs to everybody because everybody has to work very hard to keep it going. The wallpaper was one of the first things they did. It's not original. We hung the wallpaper, and it's a replica of a wedding train that hangs in the Smithsonian Institute. Eli Sam Shorter, he was born in 1858, and he was a large cotton farmer. And Wylena Lamar was from Macon, Georgia, and she was heiress to the SSS Tonic. And it's 2 stories. One is that her father came over and invited him to come to Macon. Another story is that he was in Macon and he sees her posing for this portrait and he fell in love with her. So we don't know which one is correct. The ladies, we think it's just love, and the gentlemen, they know it's a merger. So either way, yeah, we're just happy they got together. They lived in this house for 3 generations, and as I said, they finished it in 1906. They passed it on to each generation, passed it on to their daughters. So if there was ever a divorce, it would stay in the family. The 3rd generation, the Kennedys, Wylena Kennedy, they are the ones that auctioned it off, and they wanted to move back to Atlanta. So, and the Heritage Association was formed at that time. 2 people, Mr. Dean and Avani Strand, they went around and got 34 people to donate $1,000, and they purchased it at the auction for $34,000 in 1965, and the Heritage Association was formed at that time. So Then that's when everyone really had to go to work. And as I said, we have tours, we have teas, we have Christmas parties, we have Valentine parties. We do anything we can to try to keep, we are self-supporting. We get no money from any place except our hard work. We have the pilgrimage in April this year. It's going to be April 1st, 2nd, and 3rd, where we have about 8 or 10 of these old homes that we open up to the public, and sort of like Natchez, and it's Alabama's oldest tour of homes. And we're very proud. We have untold number of people. You can hardly go up and down the streets because we're so crowded, and everyone seems to enjoy it. We have an art show, we have a candlelight tours also at night, we have a ghost tour, and we have teas on the porches, and it just takes you back to the early 1900s. So we really enjoy that, and we hope everybody will come. Every year we have it in April. Some years the first weekend, and some years it's the second weekend. And this year it's the first weekend, the 1st, 2nd, and 3rd.
Well, that was extremely informative and very fun. So now we're going to go and check out the cemetery. We are going to the cemetery, but in a fairly roundabout way. On a trip to a town like Eufaula, there's so many things of historical interest to see on the way that you never go straight to your destination. We're going to stop at a couple of places that really caught my eye. Eufaula also has a Carnegie Library. These were built by a grant from Dale Carnegie, and whereas many have been torn down or used for other things, this one is still in use as a library. You can find these all over the country. Driving the main and side roads of Eufaula, it's like a trip back in time. Churches, the Carnegie Library, antebellum mansions, and more modest homes line the way. And the stores on Main Street, dating to the 1800s, play host to businesses such as antique stores and even a modern club and deli. The next stop on the way to the cemetery is something that really caught my eye, as, like Johnny Cash said, I've got a thing about trains. Lots of cool things to see on the way to the cemetery, like this. Once a thriving heartbeat of the community, the old train depot now stands empty. Signs and ads for goods offered by men from a bygone era adorn the side of the old train depot like artwork. And directly below those signs, barely concealed by the grass, in both a beautiful and melancholy scene, lies the original route of the railroad track itself, where trains once pulled up and picked up and dropped off passengers and cargo on their way down the line. Director Pam Sneed, Assistant Director Janie White, and Tour Guide Rosemary Bennett were all extremely helpful and wonderful people to meet. And the mansion boasts of architecture from the 1800s as well as clothing and products, one of which we'll discuss in a few moments. The house is a beautiful thing to see. There are floors made of multiple types of wood, beveled glass, and even a room that it is believed once held an indoor fountain. Eufaula once held the name Irwinton, but then they found out that there was a town in Georgia with the same name, and it wasn't officially changed to Eufaula until a town official didn't get his mail. And Eufaula once boasted the only steamboat landing on the Chattahoochee River, save only New Orleans. Now we're headed to the Shorter Cemetery. The owner of the house that we just left is not buried there. This goes a little farther back. Approaching the bridge that goes over Lake Eufaula into Georgia, we took a right onto a residential road. It skirts the lake. This takes us to the last site we're going to visit on the way to the cemetery. And access to this land that the cemetery is on is available by appointment at the Shorter Mansion. Now you'll see we're standing on a dirt road, a long dirt driveway. You'll see the trees all around. The Shorter Cemetery is down behind an abandoned brick house. The house is in a bad state of disrepair, and I believe they called it the Monthrop House. And not much is known about that. I'm trying to get some information on that as we go, which I have an update. But the cemetery is off to the left and behind it. So let's go have a look. But first, the Monthrop House. The Monthrops were brickers. They made bricks on this very property, and the house itself was built from those bricks. The house now stands empty, abandoned, as I'm told, for at least 15 years. And I was told that last summer, a woman in her early 80s came into the Shorter Mansion and told them that she was the last Monthrop born in this house. Also, a product, Vicky's Eye Water, was made from a spring on this property. Back at the Shorter Mansion, there are many artifacts from this era. There's a tribute to multiple governors, fireplaces, and photos for you to view. And they even have a bottle of Vicky's Eye Water.
This is the Shorter Cemetery. It consists of 2 main plots and contains approximately 30 graves. The biggest grave is Governor Shorter's. It's the tall monument, and his grave and several of his family members are here, and the plot is surrounded by a wrought iron fence.
Loved ones are buried here, those who knew and loved each other.
The cemetery is the last remnant of the original Shorter plantation, which was located here.
The cemetery is a monument to a way of life gone by, and is in a state of disrepair in some areas due to time and vandalism, and support is needed for the upkeep of gems like this. This cemetery is old and majestically overlooks from a bluff Lake Eufaula.
Close-up of John Gill Shorter's monument.
It is truly a beautiful sight to see, standing on that bluff overlooking Lake Eufaula, beneath oak trees laden with Spanish moss. But family members are not the only ones buried here.
This is the grave of Daniel Morgan Seals. He and Shorter were legislators together and worked in government, and they were very good friends. And when Mr. Seals died, he had arranged to be buried here on this land. And I don't know if this is true, but I like to think that maybe Seals and Shorter would walk out here, you know, as part of their friendship and made a pact to be buried out here together. In any case, he's here. He's separated from the main set of graves, but his monument is very impressive. Behind me are the graves of the family slaves. This slave cemetery has the distinction of being surrounded by a brick wall, which is a rarity for Civil War era slave graves.
Now, these historic sites are local gems. You should consider coming out and visiting or just making a donation. Eufaula, Alabama has plenty more things to do besides the historical things. They also have shops and dining. So now we're going to go hit the shops.